Hi everybody and welcome back. Oh, you are not ready for this one. I promise you, you are not ready. Because today's story made my blood boil in a way I have not experienced since we started this channel. We are talking about financial deception. We are talking about a woman who moved in with the man she loved and trusted completely. Who budgeted every single month. Who sacrificed dinners out and shopping trips and weekends away. Who genuinely believed she was contributing to a shared life. And then she found out the truth. Every dollar she handed that man went straight into his pocket, not to a landlord, to him. He owned the apartment outright. He had owned it the whole time. And he looked her in the eyes every single month and took her money anyway. Let's talk about it. Let's get into every single detail. Because this story, I need you to see all of it. Our narrator, let's call her Paige, is 27 years old, living in London. She works in marketing at a mid-sized agency in Shoreditch. Good job. Not flashy money, but stable, professional. She's building something real. Her boyfriend, let's call him Marcus, is 32. He works in finance. Vague finance. The kind of finance where you say the word and people nod and don't ask follow-up questions. He's confident, presentable, the kind of guy who knows what wine to order and always has a table at the right restaurant. They met through mutual friends at a birthday dinner about 2 years before all of this happened. He was charming. He was attentive. He texted back immediately. He made her feel, from the very beginning, like she was the most interesting person in any room they entered together. They dated for 8 months before the conversation about moving in happened, and it was a genuinely exciting conversation. Paige was living in a flat share in Hackney. 3 housemates, 1 bathroom, a kitchen that always smelled slightly of someone else's dinner. She was ready to leave. Marcus had his own place, a really nice one. A 1-bed flat in Bermondsey, exposed brick, high ceilings. One of those converted warehouse buildings with a lift and a bike storage room and a little courtyard with actual plants in it. The kind of place you see on property shows and think real people don't actually live there. Paige had spent enough nights there to know every corner of it. She loved it. She already felt at home. Marcus Browning hit up the idea first. He said he wanted her there. He said coming home to her was the best part of his day. He was romantic about it in all the ways that made it feel like the obvious next step for their relationship. She said yes. She went home to Hackney that night and told her flatmates she was moving out. She gave her notice the following week. And then Marcus told her about the rent. He sat her down quite formally, she says, which she thought at the time was sweet, like he was taking it seriously, and he explained the situation. He said the flat cost him £1,800 a month. He said he thought it was only fair they split it down the middle, £900 each. He said he didn't want to feel like he was subsidizing her lifestyle, and he didn't want her to feel like a guest. He wanted them to be equal partners. He framed it entirely as a fairness thing, an equity thing. He was very calm and reasonable about it. Paige said yes. She thought about it briefly. £900 was not nothing. It was more than half her rent in Hackney had been, but she reasoned it through. Bermondsey was nicer than Hackney. The flat was nicer. They would be sharing a spa. See, and splitting all the costs was the grown-up, fair thing to do. She also, and she admits this with some pain in her update, trusted him completely. She had no reason not to. He had never given her a reason not to. She moved in on a Saturday in March. He helped her carry boxes. They ordered pizza and sat on the floor of their flat. She was thinking of it as their flat, and she was genuinely, completely happy. Everything was fine, or so she thought. The first thing that started to feel slightly off wasn't about the money at first. It was about the complaints. Marcus was a complainer about finances, but not about big things, about small things, specific, targeted, slightly pointed things. He would mention that the electricity bill was higher than he expected. He would say they needed to be careful about the water usage. He would look at their weekly grocery shop and say things like, "I feel like we're spending a lot on food lately." Not accusatory exactly, but consistent, like a slow drip. Like there was a financial anxiety underlying everything. Paige adjusted herself accordingly. She started turning off lights compulsively. She started buying cheaper brands at the supermarket. She stopped ordering as many takeaways. When her friends suggested holidays or weekend trips, she found herself saying she needed to watch her spending. She had rent now, real rent. City rent, Adult life was expensive. She was being responsible. She transferred £900 to Marcus by bank transfer on the first of every month, not to a landlord account, not to a letting agency, directly to Marcus's personal account. She had noted this once, early on, and he'd explained it smoothly. He said he had a direct debit set up to the landlord and it was just easier to pool it through his account. That made sense to her. She filed it away. She didn't think about it again. Months passed, 6 of them. And in those 6 months, Paige transferred £5,400 to Marcus. She budgeted tightly. She didn't save as much as she'd hoped. She didn't take the trip to Portugal with her friends in September because she said she couldn't really afford it. Marcus had mentioned that same month that some unexpected building maintenance costs had come up and they might need to be careful. She stayed home. She was careful. She noticed, sometime around month 4, that Marcus never seemed to have the same anxiety about money that he insisted they needed to share. He still went to nice restaurants with his work friends. He still bought expensive whiskey without blinking. He upgraded his laptop. He went skiing in February with a group of colleagues and didn't bat an eyelid at the cost. She mentioned it once lightly, not accusingly, that it seemed like he wasn't as worried about money as he often suggested she should be. He said his work expenses were different. He had a bonus structure she didn't have. And anyway, he said he was managing the household finances. That was more stress than she appreciated. She felt guilty for bringing it up. She dropped it. She should not have dropped it, because something else happened in month 5 that she almost let go of entirely. She almost let it pass. And if she had, she might still be in that apartment, handing over £900 a month and being told to watch the water usage. Her co-worker, let's call her Bex, had recently moved to Bermondsey too. Different building, few streets over. They got coffee one morning and started talking about the neighborhood, about costs, about what you were both paying for your flats. Bex mentioned her rent a 1-bed not unlike Paige's description of Marcus's and said she paid £1,400 a month. Paige nodded. Bermondsey prices. That tracked with £1,800 for Marcus's place. It was nicer. A converted warehouse. High ceilings. The whole thing. But then Bex mentioned her building. And something Paige couldn't quite name shifted slightly in her chest. Because Bex's building was a newer development, the kind with a concierge and a gym. And she was paying £1,400 for something arguably flashier than Marcus's place. Paige didn't say anything to Bex. She changed the subject. But on the tube on the way home, she sat with a feeling she couldn't shake. A feeling that made her put her phone away instead of scrolling. A thought she couldn't quite complete but couldn't quite abandon. She got home. Marcus wasn't back yet. She sat in the living room of their lovely converted warehouse flat with the exposed brick and the high ceilings, and she opened Rightmove on her phone. She typed in the postcode. She filtered for 1-bedroom flats. She looked at the rental listings. £1,800 a month was at the very top of the range. The average for a comparable flat in the same postcode was closer to 15,50. The nicer ones, actual new builds with concierge services, were pushing 17. Marcus's building was lovely, but it wasn't brand new. It was a conversion. It was probably 1,500 if you were being generous about it. She put her phone face down on the cushion. She stared at the ceiling. She did not confront him that night. She decided to be sure first. She decided to know exactly what she was dealing with before she said a single word, and what she found next changed everything. She started carefully. She told herself she was probably wrong. She told herself there could be an explanation. But she needed to be sure. That word, sure, was the only thing keeping her from spiraling entirely. She found the building on the Land Registry website. This is public information in the UK. Property ownership records are publicly accessible. You pay £2 and you can see exactly who owns a property and when they bought it. She paid the £2. The result came back in under a minute. The flat was registered in Marcus's name. Not a landlord, not a company, Mbani, not a letting agency. Marcus. And the purchase date? 5 years ago, long before they met. Long before he told her he paid £1,800 a month to a landlord who didn't exist. He had owned this apartment outright for 5 years and charged her £900 a month to live in it. For 6 months. My hands were shaking. I could not breathe. I read the registry entry 4 times. 5 times. His name. His name. His name. I had transferred this man £5,400. I had skipped Portugal. I had bought cheap pasta instead of the stuff I actually liked. I had felt guilty for suggesting he spent money freely while telling me to tighten my belt. I had actually thanked him for being so mature about splitting things fairly. He was pocketing my money, every single pound of it, into his own personal account and smiling at me across the dinner table. She did not cry immediately. She said she went very still. The kind of still that happens when your brain is processing something so contrary to your understanding of reality that it hasn't found the emotional register for it yet. She sat there in that his paid off flat, not their flat, and she was completely motionless for a long time. And then she started to plan. She did not confront him that night. She did not confront him the next morning. She waited 4 days. 4 long, extraordinarily composed days in which she behaved completely normally. She made dinner. She watched television with him. She laughed at things he said. She kissed him goodbye in the mornings. She was, externally, the same person she had always been. Internally, she was building a spreadsheet. She documented everything. Every bank transfer, dates, amounts, references. She screenshot the land registry result with the date stamp. She screenshot her bank statements showing 6 months of £900 transfers, all to his personal account. She found, in an old text chain from when they first discussed the move, the message where he had explicitly said, quote, "The rent is £1,800 per month, so if we split it that's £900 each. Seems fair, right?" She screenshot that too. She saved everything to her personal cloud storage. She forwarded it to her email. She sent a copy to Bex for safekeeping with a short message saying she might need these later and she'd explain everything soon. Then she made her calls. She called her broadband provider. She called the electricity supplier. She called the gas. She was currently named on 0 utility accounts. Marcus had handled all of that. Another layer of control she now saw clearly. She couldn't transfer them directly into his name without his involvement. But she could give notice on the accounts she'd been informally contributing to. She started making inquiries. She started understanding exactly what she needed to do, and in what order. She told no one else yet except Bex. Not her mum, not her other friends. She needed this to be clean and controlled. She needed to do this right. She identified a weekend 3 weeks away when Marcus had a stag do in Edinburgh. 2 nights away, booked months ago. He'd been looking forward to it. She had 2 nights to execute everything. She booked a removal van for the Saturday morning. She called a friend, let's call her Donna, who had a spare room, and told her she would need to crash for a few weeks. Donna, who had never trusted Marcus on instinct, asked 0 questions and said the room was hers, and she waited. The Friday he left for Edinburgh, he kissed her, our goodbye at the door, told her not to miss him too much. She smiled and said she'd try. He wheeled his overnight bag to the lift. The doors closed. She stood in the hallway of his fully paid-off Bermondsey flat for one long final moment, and then she got to work. She printed 12 pages of documents at the nearest library, the land registry entry, 6 months of bank statements with the transfers highlighted, the text message where he described splitting the rent, a brief, factual cover note she had written herself. She printed 2 copies of everything and placed 1 complete set in a clear plastic wallet on the kitchen counter, anchored by the salt cellar so it couldn't be missed. Then the removal van arrived. She had been strategic about what she took. She took everything that was hers, her clothes, her books, her art prints, her kitchen equipment she'd brought from Hackney, her desk lamp, her plants, her record player, her bedside table. She was efficient and methodical. The van was loaded in under 2.5 hours. She was good at this. She worked in logistics coordination alongside her marketing job. She knew how to move things. She did 3 more things before she left. First, she changed the billing on every account Marcus had ever asked her to contribute to the shared Netflix, the Spotify family plan he'd added her to, the Amazon household account. She removed herself from all of them clean. Second, she had called each utility company back during the week and, having done more research, had found that since she had proof of residence, her name on mail, her bank account showing contributions, she could formally request to be removed as an informal account contributor. She did this. She also, through the same calls, flagged that the account holder had been receiving residential payments. She did not make accusations. She simply ensured her own name was clear. Third, and this is the one that made Bex burst out laughing when Paige told her she took the fancy whiskey. She had done the maths. 3 bottles, mid to high shelf. She estimated the combined value at around £280. She had overpaid by at least that much based on the realistic market rent versus what he'd claimed. She placed them carefully in a tote bag. She considered this squaring the ledger. She left the spare key on top of the printed documents. He closed the door behind her. She did not look back. She was in Donna's spare room by 7 that evening with a glass of wine in her hand, watching Donna read through the printouts with an expression of escalating fury. "He owns the place," Donna said flatly. "He owns the place," Paige confirmed. Donna refilled both their glasses without being asked. "Okay, I need to stop. I need to breathe. Because this is not just a bad relationship story. This is financial abuse. Let's use the correct words. What Marcus did to Paige is not a misunderstanding. It is not a grey area. He constructed a false financial reality. He told her a specific lie, £1,800 a month. Split fairly. 900 each that he knew was a lie when he said it. He used that lie to extract money from her for 6 months. He compounded it by performing financial anxiety, by making her feel guilty, by making her moderate her own spending, by making her miss a trip to Portugal while experiencing none of that anxiety himself because it was entirely fabricated. He manufactured a financial burden and placed it entirely on her while experiencing none of it. That is not thoughtlessness. That is not carelessness. That is deliberate, calculated, sustained deception, and it is financial abuse. And here is what makes me the angriest about this story. He didn't need the money. He's in finance. He owns his flat outright. £900 a month was not keeping his lights on. He did it because he could. He did it because he decided she owed him for the privilege of being there. He decided privately, without telling her, that she should pay to share the space he owned free and clear. And instead of having that honest conversation, instead of saying, "Look, I own this place, but I think we should still split household costs," which is a conversation couples have all the time, he lied. He chose the lie. He built a whole fictional landlord in her head and collected the rent. Now, let's see what the community said, because when Paige posted this, it absolutely exploded. The top comment, nearly 41,000 upvotes, from a user called London Flatbroke Verified, said, "The detail that destroys me is the financial anxiety performance." The electricity comments, telling her to watch spending. He was manufacturing a financial reality that didn't exist and making her live inside it. That is psychological manipulation, not just lying. He didn't just take her money, he made her feel like she needed to be grateful for the arrangement.
This comment is everything, because yes, the lie was bad. But the ongoing performance of the lie, the gaslighting dressed up as shared budgeting, that is the layer that transforms this from a one-time deception into something sustained and deliberate. He kept her believing. Every month, every comment about the electricity bill was an active choice to maintain the fiction. Second comment, from property solicitor _ not yours, wrote, "As a former property solicitor, the land registry check is completely legal, public, and costs £2. The fact that this tool exists, and most people don't know about it, is wild. Everyone in an relationship where you're paying rent to your partner's account should know this is available. £2. That's it. And I want to echo this loudly. If you are paying rent that goes to your partner's personal account, rather than directly to a landlord or letting agent, please know that the land registry is a public record. £2. Anyone can check who owns any property in England and Wales. This is not illegal. This is not snooping. It is public information. Paige found out the truth for less than the cost of a coffee." Third comment, from chaotic good flatmate, wrote, "She took the whiskey. She budgeted for it. She assigned it against the overpayment. She treated it as a line item on an accounting document she had built in her head. That woman is not heartbroken. That woman is an icon." I agree entirely. The whiskey detail tells you everything about Paige's state of mind. She was not in a rage. She was not in tears. She was running an audit. She had calculated what she was owed, identified assets of equivalent value, and settled the debt herself. That is not pettiness. That is precision. Fourth comment, from Real One's Talk Finance. "What I want to know is, did he actually think she'd never find out? Did he think this could go on indefinitely? Did he have a long-term plan for this lie? Because at some point, they'd have moved further in together, potentially bought a place, gotten married. Was he going to charge her rent forever? What was the end game?
This is a question I've been sitting with too.
Because either Marcus didn't think that far ahead, which makes him impulsive and reckless on top of dishonest, or he had thought that far ahead and believed he could sustain the lie indefinitely. Neither version is better than the other.
Both.
Versions tell you this man saw Paige primarily as a resource to be managed. Fifth comment from Northern Realist Joe. She went 4 days without letting on, 4 days of normal dinners and normal conversations and goodnight kisses while sitting on this information. That level of composure is either remarkable self-control or a sign that something fundamental had already switched off inside her. Probably both. She wasn't acting anymore. She was managing a situation.
Yes, and I think that's exactly right.
Paige has spoken about this in her update. She said those 4 days felt strange and clarifying at the same time. Like the version of her that had been in a relationship with Marcus had been replaced, very quietly, by a version of her that was simply completing a task. The grief hadn't hit yet, the planning had taken over. Sixth comment from Rye British Justice wrote, printed documents, left on the kitchen counter, under the salt cellar. The salt cellar specifically. I cannot explain why the salt cellar detail is the funniest, most devastating element of this story, but here we are. Listen, I cannot argue with this. The salt cellar is doing so much work in this story. It's cute she needed something to hold the papers. But it also, and maybe this is reading too much into a condiment holder, it also feels like a final seasoning, a finishing touch. She salted the wound. Literally. I don't think she planned that symbolism, but it's there. Seventh comment from Tired of 32-year-old Men. He performed financial stress at her for 6 months. He made her feel guilty for the cost of living in a flat he owns, outright, and charges no mortgage on. She skipped a trip to Portugal. I am so angry on her behalf that I need to go for a walk. Same. Absolutely the same. Right. So the community agrees, unanimously, categorically, with considerable fury. Paige is not wrong. Paige is not overreacting. Paige did everything correctly. But I need you to stay with me. Because what happened when Marcus came home from Edinburgh? What happened when he walked into that flat and saw what she left behind? What unfolded in the days and weeks after? That is the part of this story that will make you want to stand up and applaud. The update. Let's get into it right now. Marcus came home from Edinburgh on Sunday evening. Paige knows this because she had muted, not blocked, his num. She could see his messages coming, she just wasn't responding. She wanted to know the exact moment he walked in. He texted at 5:47 p.m. Just landed, heading back now. You want me to grab dinner on the way? She did not respond. He texted at 6:54 p.m. Home, where are you? She did not respond. There was a gap of 11 minutes. She imagines, she says she has thought about this moment quite a bit, that those 11 minutes were him walking around the flat, noticing the absence, the gaps on the shelves, the missing record player, the plants gone from the windowsill, the second toothbrush gone, and then, presumably, the kitchen counter. At 7:05 p.m., his messages began in earnest. What is this? Paige, call me. What is all this paperwork? This is insane, you need to call me right now. I can explain this. She noted that the last one particularly. I can explain this. Not this is wrong. Not this is a misunderstanding. Not where did you get this information. I can explain this, which meant he understood exactly what was on the counter. He recognized it immediately. The land registry entry, the bank transfers, his own text message H. I saw it, and his first instinct was not to deny the facts, but to offer an explanation for them. An explanation he did not then provide because she wasn't answering. At 7:34 p.m. Please just talk to me. At 8:12 p.m. I know this looks bad. At 9:06 p.m. I was going to tell you. She screenshotted all of it, added it to the file. She did not respond until the following morning, and her response was 3 sentences. I have documentation of everything. I will not be returning to the flat. Please do not contact me further. She blocked him immediately after sending. He tried calling from a different number twice. She didn't pick up. He emailed a long winding email that her friend Bex read on her behalf. and summarized as a lot of words that don't include the words sorry, wrong, or I lied. Paige did not read it herself. His explanation, she learned this through a mutual friend he'd enlisted as an intermediary. Because of course he did, was that he had planned to use the rent money to take them on a big holiday. A surprise. He had been saving it up to do something special for them as a couple. He framed it as a romantic gesture that had been misunderstood. Paige heard this explanation through the mutual friend, laughed genuinely and out loud, and said, "He saved £5,400 of my money to spend on me as a surprise, without telling. He was doing it, in secret, while telling me to watch my electricity usage. That's his story." Right. The mutual friend reportedly had no good follow-up. The fallout moved in several directions at once. Paige told her friends. All of them? Not in a dramatic, staged way. She just stopped keeping it private. She told them factually, with the documentation available to anyone who wanted to see it. Most of them were furious on her behalf. Two of them who had met Marcus and been charmed by him in the way that charming men are done, had a period of genuine disbelief, followed by an acceptance that they found uncomfortable. Paige noticed this and did not hold it against them. She understood he was good at being charming. That was, after all, how she had ended up there. One friend, a friend who had been in Paige and Marcus's extended social circle, rather than purely Paige's pass the story along. And because London is large but certain circles within it are surprisingly small, it reached people in Marcus's professional and social world. Paige did not engineer this. She did not target it. She told her friends the truth, and the truth traveled. Marcus, Paige learned through the same grapevine, attempted to manage the narrative. He characterized Paige as having overreacted to a misunderstanding. He said he had meant to explain the arrangement, but it had gotten complicated. He used phrases like, "She took it the wrong way, and it wasn't what it looked like." These phrases landed poorly with most people who had already seen or heard about the documentation. It is difficult to reframe a land registry entry. Paige, for her part, did one final thing that she has since described as the most satisfying decision of the entire experience. She posted the story details changed just enough, names altered to a popular financial advice and personal finance community online. She framed it as a question. Is what my ex-partner did legal, and what should I know about this situation? The community response was overwhelming. She received practical advice about her options. She received validation from dozens of people with similar experiences. She received 3 private messages from women who had been in near identical situations and never spoken about them publicly. And the post, through being screenshot and shared and screenshotted again, eventually reached an audience considerably larger than the forum it was posted to. Marcus became, in a specific and not particularly comfortable way, known. As for Paige now, she is living in Donna's spare room, which she pays a very reasonable amount for. Donna showed her the mortgage statement up front, because Donna is a human being, and she is looking for her own flat. She has the £5,400 she'd spent sitting in a complicated emotional space in her memory, and she says she is still working out how she feels about the loss of it. She has started therapy, which she says has been useful for untangling, not just what Marcus did, but why she had modulated herself so thoroughly in response to his performed anxieties without ever questioning them. She is thoughtful about this. She is not self-blaming, but she is understanding what happened and why it was able to. She says the thing that catches her off guard occasionally is not missing Marcus. She had expected to miss him. She had expected GRIEF for the relationship, but mostly what she feels is anger clean, clarifying anger, and underneath the anger, an almost physical relief, like a weight she hadn't fully acknowledged, was there has been put down. She has not missed a right move listing since, just in case. Financial deception is not a quirk. It is not a communication problem. It is not a mistake made under pressure. What Marcus did to Paige was a deliberate construction. He decided she owed him money for a space he owned free and clear. He invented a financial reality. He maintained it for 6 months. He performed stress to keep her inside it. And he called it a surprise when he was caught. It was not a surprise. It was a scheme. Paige walked out with her record player, her plans, and the whiskey. She left the documentation, the truth, and the salt. And she is going to be completely fine. Better than fine.
She is going to be magnificent, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. But first, let's take a breath. Let's cleanse the palate. Because after all of that financial betrayal, we have earned something satisfying. We have earned something petty, and I have exactly the right story. Mood Booster Petty Revenge. Mood Booster. The office lunch thief meets her match 1, 31 male, work in an open-plan office in Manchester. Mid-sized company, about 60 people on our floor. The kitchen is shared. There is a large communal fridge. The fridge has a sign on it that says, in laminated printed letters, "Please label your food. Please do not take food that is not yours." The sign has been there since before I started. I know this because it looks older than the fridge itself. I am a person who meal preps. Every Sunday I cook 5 days of lunches and put them in matching containers with my name written on a piece of tape on the lid. I do this because I enjoy cooking, I enjoy the economics of it, and I genuinely like eating a good lunch at my desk rather than a sad supermarket deal. My lunches are, by office fridge standards, objectively excellent. I am not being arrogant. I have received compliments from colleagues who could smell them from across the room. For 3 months, someone was eating them. Not every day, not even every week, but semi-regularly. I would open the fridge to retrieve the lunch I had prepared on Sunday and cooked with care and labeled with my name, and it would be gone, placed with nothing, no note, no apology, just absent. In its place would be the cold absence of my lunch and the faint injustice of it. I brought this up to my manager once. She sent an email to the floor reminding everyone to respect communal fridge space and not take labeled food. The email changed nothing. The lunches continued to disappear. I started paying attention. I started noting which lunches went missing. I noticed a pattern. It was always on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I noticed that on the days my lunch disappeared, a colleague a few desks over, let's call her Sandra, who is 45, who has very strong opinions about the communal microwave schedule, and who once sent a reply or email to 60 people about someone leaving a mug in the sink. Sandra would eat her lunch at her desk rather than in the kitchen. She always ate in the kitchen. Tuesdays and Thursdays, she ate at her desk. I could not prove this was Sandra. Suspicion is not proof. I needed to know for certain, and I needed a proportionate, clean, absolutely deniable resolution. I went home on Sunday, and I meal prepped as normal, 6 containers, 5 for the week, 1 for the plan. The plan container was a pass. That dish, identical in appearance to my usual lunches, properly labeled, perfectly presented. Inside the pasta, I had included a truly ferocious amount of ghost pepper hot sauce. Not a splash, a considered, calibrated, medically not harmful but deeply unpleasant quantity. I had researched this. I had tested a small amount myself the previous week to ensure it was survivable but memorable. It was survivable. It was very memorable. I have not repeated the experiment. I placed the plan container on the shelf at the front of the fridge. I placed my real lunch behind it. Tuesday came. By 11:30, I noticed Sandra was looking a little pink around the ears. By noon, Sandra had gone to the kitchen 3 times. I know because I counted. By 12:30, Sandra made a trip to the bathroom that lasted 19 minutes. I am not counting bathroom trips normally. The 19th minute mark only became notable in the context of subsequent events. She was back at her desk. By 2, she did not look well. She looked like someone who had made a choice and was being very privately made to reckon with it. She did not eat anything else for the rest of the day. She went home early. On Wednesday, I placed only my real lunch in the fridge. It was undisturbed. On Thursday, I placed the second plan container, identical preparation, identical sauce front and center. By noon Thursday, Sandra made the same sequence of pink-eared, kitchen visiting, extended bathroom trip decisions she had made on Tuesday. She went home early again on Thursday. From Friday of that week onward, every lunch I placed in the fridge remained completely, unambiguously untouched. For the next 4 months, I never had a conversation with Sandra about it. She never had a conversation with me about it. Nothing was said, nothing was reported, nothing was documented. Nothing left a paper trail of any kind. Sandra still has strong opinions about the communal microwave schedule. She still sends reply all emails about the mug in the sink. She has, however, developed what appears to be a complete and total lack of interest in the front shelf of the communal fridge. I meal prep every Sunday.
My lunches are magnificent. They remain mine. Some lessons are best taught through pasta. Play stupid games. Win stupid prizes. That applies to Sandra and her appetite for things that didn't belong to her. It applies. Wise to Marcus and his appetite for £900 a month of someone else's trust. It applies to anyone who mistakes someone else's patience for permission. Thank you so much for being here today. This one genuinely got to me. If Paige's story hit you the way it hit me, if you have ever been made to feel like you were a financial burden in a situation designed to make you feel that way, I hope this brought you something. Some clarity, some company, some small whiskey-scented satisfaction. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Save this video. Send it to someone who needs it. Leave a comment below telling me what you would have done differently or the same. I read them.
All of them. I'll see you in the next one.